Hey everybody. So I just wanted to make a little video response to this flat earth video. And normally I don't do videos like this, but I saw some information in there that I believe is incorrect, and I wanted to respond to it. So first of all, let me just say that I think the flat earth concept is very intriguing. Some flat earthers do have some valid points that are very interesting. I can't say that I've decided one way or the other what it is. I'm probably leaning more towards the globe theory, but I'm an open-minded person, and show me the evidence, and I'm not going to kick and scream and say, "Oh, this is what I believed my whole life." No, you show me the evidence, and then that's what I'll believe. It's pretty simple for me. But I'm a pilot, and so I wanted to respond to some of the information in this video with regards especially to the aviation and piloting aspect. So in the video, the guy spoke that airplanes don't have to make corrections as they go around the world for the curvature of the Earth. And this is true, and I'll tell you why. Because altimeters are based on pressure, air pressure. If the Earth is a sphere, in the spherical model, then you can imagine that the pressure, different pressures, are also sort of in layers that are spherical around the planet. So if you were maintaining 3,000 feet, let's say, or any altitude, and you were following the lines of pressure, which automatically you would, then you'd be automatically curving around the Earth. So that whole point of do pilots have to make changes, that's completely invalid. So whether you're on autopilot, in which the plane would be following the same lines of pressure by constantly making minor corrections, up or down, because it's not just the curvature of the Earth, but there's different changes in air pressure and so on and so forth, and wind and turbulence and other variations, or manually flying, then it's the same thing. You're basically unknowingly following the lines of pressure to maintain that whatever altitude you're trying to be set at. So that point is completely wrong in the video. The idea with the helicopter, I think he said helicopters and blimps or something like that, as soon as they took off, the world would be kind of spinning around them, and all they had to do was go up and wait for their destination. That's also nonsense, right? Because if you were on a train, let's say that train is completely enclosed on the inside through all the cars, and let's say you had a little drone, right, inside, a little handheld sized drone, and all the air inside that train is moving along with the train on the track at 100 miles per hour. If you take off that drone inside the train, as soon as you take off, that drone's not going to go flying all the way to the back of the train and crash against the end of it. No, it's going to hover right there with you because it took off from its moving point of perspective, and so it's moving with the train. And the fact that the air is moving with it makes it even more so the case that the little drone is going to hover in place basically in place for you if you're on board the train, but if you're an outside observer standing on the ground, it'll look like that little drone is whizzing by 100 miles per hour along with the train. So that point that he made with the helicopter, that's also incorrect. It's completely inaccurate. The helicopter is taking off with the Earth, and so is still subject to that motion, whatever its state of motion is, which currently I'm leaning towards it's rotating. And of course, the air is rotating with it. The air isn't freely out there. It's rotating with the Earth. So that even helps more the case, right? Let's see, what other points were there? So to give the video credit, where he talked about the construction guys not compensating for the curvature of the Earth, yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting. One could argue that we're talking about such a great distance and such a little change that the materials used basically, adjust and flex by themselves. But I don't know that for a fact, so I can't really speak too much about this point. But It is intriguing, that's for sure. Very interesting. Going back to parts that I believe are incorrect, talking about the moon and how large it is and how much gravity it should have versus the Earth, it should have a great more amount of gravity. Well, we've all heard of the hollow moon theory, right? So whether the moon is actually hollow or just like a big piece of Swiss cheese, which is probably more like the case, the bottom line is the moon is not very dense. And gravity is not based upon necessarily size, but density, right? So the moon is not, could be as big as you want it to be. If it's mostly empty space, then it's not dense. Plus, the material that it's made out of is probably not so dense. So the basic end result of the moon is that the moon's gravity is weaker than it should be. Let's just say, if the moon were like the Earth in its density and material and without the hollow part, yeah, the moon would have a great amount of gravity. It'd probably be devastating to the Earth. But because it's not, then that's why it has a low gravity. In the video, he also spoke of water and how water doesn't curve; it always goes level. This and that. I completely disagree with that, because you could see a drop of water, obviously that curves, right? So zero G tests can be done in an airplane with water, and they've done it. And when you throw out a little couple of drops of water there, they curve up, right? So that point is completely invalid. And obviously, in space as well. But some of you will say space is fake, orbit is fake. Okay, so let's just not even go there. Let's just do the zero G effect in an airplane, which is basically an airplane doing a rapid descent. Water pulls together in little droplets, right? Obviously, little balls. Same thing in rain, obviously. So to me, that point is completely invalid. If the world is a globe, then the water will undoubtedly curve around the Earth, and that's not a problem. And the part of the video where he says that the Earth looks flat everywhere you go, to me, that point is pretty much nonsensical, because obviously the larger any object is, it could be spherical or whatever shape, it's going to look flat if it's really huge, right? So our senses can be very deceiving. People thousands of years ago probably would have said there's no air, right? Because it's invisible, but clearly it's there. And the Earth is also very large, so it could look flat, right? So that point means nothing. So going back to the pilots that were talking in the video, I couldn't hear exactly what they were all saying clearly. Some of those guys are just giving quick answers. Some of them may be just, I don't know, joking around, or just plain old simply, describing what they feel that they see, which, yes, the Earth does, can appear to look flat. There's no doubt about it. I don't deny that, because it's really big. And just because a pilot said something per se doesn't mean that it's, that it's gospel, right? These guys who fly, especially who fly these big airplanes, don't think that they're the end-all, know-all of aviation and everything. Some of them actually don't know a lot of stuff, because those planes are highly automated, okay, very automated. So over the years, as a pilot, I can speak from experience that you tend to forget some of the more, let's say, basic or simpler things, like you did if you were flying a Cessna, per se. And when you get into this big airplane, everything's all computerized. You're working for a company. Everything has a process. And so you tend to forget about those simpler processes. What I'm saying is, they don't have to make any correction for the world's curve, as I mentioned earlier in the video. So if they believe in the flat Earth, there is really, not so much evidence that can, convince them otherwise in the plane. Except for me, coming on to my next point, which would be, what about planes that flew around the world? Or what about boats that cruised around the world, right? So unless space itself is curved, which only some of you will know what I'm talking about, then there's just no way that you could set sail from or fly an airplane around the equator and come back where you started, unless it was a sphere. There's just no way, right? Unless space itself is actually curved, and you think you're traveling straight, but you're traveling through a curved space. But that's just more proof to me that it's a sphere. So moving on, I pretty much summed up all the points that I wanted to comment on in the video, and I just wanted to make some suggestions for those of you who really want some kind of proof that whether it's flat or round or spherical, I have some ideas for you. So, anybody with the money or even with a GoFundMe can, hire out an airplane, a jet airplane, let's say, to fly around the world and just mount a GoPro right on the dashboard. And we could pick up some GPS data as well. And because I know that's the kind of evidence that you guys are going to need, because, you don't believe in these big corporations like NASA and Boeing, and you think all the big corporations are lying. So we basically need a little guy, right? We need a little guy to fund an airplane. We could bring all the skeptics on board too. We could bring a bunch of skeptics, flat earthers, put a couple GoPros on this thing and fly it directly around the world and see what happens. If it comes back where it started, the world is round. Now, if that budget is too high, then I'm thinking there's got to be a way that with an application that we can determine the positions of different people's phones on different continents. So say, for example, if you're in the United States and another person's in China, and let's say you got a special application in your phone that recognizes the positions of the phones compared to each other. And those people would say you had to lay the phone flat down on a table or something. Well, if each of them laid it flat down on a table, the software would be able to determine that, okay, one phone is, aiming this way towards the sky or space, and the other one is aiming this way. So we have confirmation that it would be spherical or not. So that would be a relatively straightforward application, and many people could download it on many continents, and we can really put this flat Earth thing to rest or for confirmation. I think that's pretty simple, and that could be done easily also with a GoFundMe. All right, so I'm about to wrap up the video here, and I hope you like some of these pictures I put. I put a few pictures of Star Trek and everything, and showing how popular culture is depicting the spherical model and stuff. I get it. It could be brainwashing. But, we're coming to that time when hobbyists are launching balloons almost into space, and pretty soon hobbyists will be able to launch their own rockets into orbit. And in which case I'll say, let's do a GoFundMe and put a GoPro on some flat earther's rocket and send it around the world and see what's on the other side and get confirmation one way or the other. So those are my ideas, and hope you enjoyed this video. And if you think I'm wrong about any of these things, or if you have any comments, then by all means comment below, make me a reply video. I'm here, I want to find out the truth just like the rest of y'all, and hope everybody has a good day. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. As an average star watcher, I have to be able to say clearly that I've moved north and south many times in airplanes, and I can see different stars at different latitudes on the planet. So unless space is fake, right, which I know some of y'all think that it might be, I don't know. Unless space is fake and the stars are fake or some kind of a projection or something, I don't see how that could even be possible. Because I know for a fact that in the southern hemisphere, I'm looking at stars that I cannot see in the northern hemisphere. So that, too, is another point towards the spherical Earth idea. All right, anyway, thank you for your time. Have a good day.